What's up guys, I hope everyone's doing okay during quarantine right now. I just took a shower and I'm in desperate need of a haircut. Obviously my senior year is gone, reduced to atoms. But because this is supposed to be more of a celebratory happy time than a sad one, instead of being sad about all the memories I wasn't able to get, I want to be happy and relive the ones that I was able to get instead. So that's why I'm making this video. I'll also be giving some advice throughout this video that'll probably mostly pertain only to my high school specifically, or we'll see if it might apply to high school in general too. 7th grade. It was a tragic time.
No.
Fortunately, all of us were able to glow up. If you guys don't know, my high school is actually pretty selective. I need to pass the test to get in. In 6th grade, when it was time to talk about what middle school everyone's going to and stuff, everyone's like, oh, I'm going here, I'm going there, but I'm not going to Whitney because I'm not gonna get in the first place. But then 2 months later, of course, everyone gets in, and then everyone changes their mind, and here we are. The first few weeks of school, it was relatively easier for me to settle in just because all of my friends were already there with me. But I still tried to talk to a lot of different people, and because of that, I was able to meet cool people like Christian and Andrew, who used to call me Tyler for some reason, I don't know. When it was time to get lunch tables and stuff like that, my friends and I managed to snag a table, but within 2 weeks we got kicked out by some upperclassmen. So instead we moved to the ground and sat there for lunch and called it Hobo Alley. We sat there for a few years. I don't really know much else to say about 7th grade, but some highlights were obviously the Japanese Warlords game we played during history class, and we also went to the Renaissance Fair for a field trip where a bunch of my friends and I lined up to get a turkey leg for $10, but it ended up getting cut by a bunch of kids from our rival school. Moral: obviously, unless you were in one of those weird schools where it's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade for middle school, you're going to be in a new environment with new people, new classrooms, new everything. But don't let that scare you. Just go out there and make some friends, join some clubs, and have fun because you're only in 7th grade. You're not yet really that busy yet. If you get lost on the first day of school, don't be scared to ask anyone really for help on where to go. Most people have been in your shoes before, so they'll know where you're coming from, and they'll most likely be nice enough to help you out. Sometimes we'll have colleges come visit us to talk to us, mostly for the seniors. Sometimes I see middle schoolers there, but that's cool and all, but because you're in middle school, it's not really helpful for you that much because mostly for how to actually apply for seniors. So I say don't waste your time, just go enjoy your snack and lunch. Also, if you're in 7th grade, this is a big one. Don't bring a rolling backpack because our school hallways are crowded enough. Please don't piss everyone off by taking up more room than you need to and running a bunch of people's feet over. And like how I mentioned before that I got kicked out of a table, just be aware that some tables are supposed to be for specific grade levels, and in middle school, 7th and 8th graders don't have that privilege, so just be aware of where you're sitting. And I'm not sure if this is still a thing, but if they are, mile passes, get them. Even though I am a runner, PE miles are literal hell. No one likes them. Please get the mile passes and save yourself the trouble of running the mile. Last thing I would say about 7th grade is that this is probably the first time that you're able to play on your devices freely during recess, which is now called snack and lunch. And so naturally I see a lot of underclassmen playing on their phones and video game devices all the time in the hallways. Have fun, you're in 7th grade. I know in 7th grade the big thing in my grade was geometry dash. My grade was just the absolute best at it. Also, I forgot to mention that the first 2 weeks of school people will probably line up to use the stalls to change out for PE. Don't do that. Just quickly change, it's not that hard. 8th grade. I'm also not sure if this is still a thing, but in 7th grade when I entered band trying to get to advanced band, I failed the passing test, the placement exam, so I was put into intermediate band instead. So 8th grade was the year I finally got promoted to advanced band, which was cool. It was also the year where pineapples became a thing. My good friend and acquaintance Enrique Mendoza and I brought pineapples to school one day, and we just ran around holding the pineapples, including the PE mile. But some general highlights were definitely the DC trip that I know many schools go on. We went to Washington DC, Pennsylvania, and New York, and it was just a really fun and cool trip overall. And it was probably just one of the best moments I've had at Whitney. even though my friends and I got locked out of our room on day 1 and got cussed out at like 5 in the morning by our teachers. And the other big event that happens this year was 8th grade social. Unlike other school dances like Hello and Aloha, only the 8th graders specifically are allowed in this dance. And there were also donut holes at this dance, so shout out to 8th grade Kabi for that one. And because this was also the last year of middle school, there was promotion, and it's no graduation, but I'll take it. Moral. So 1 year in 7th grade, you'll probably get like a lot of stuff, comments like, oh, they're so cute, they're so little, 7th graders, from like all the upperclassmen. So in 8th grade, you're finally gonna be like done with that. The new 7th graders will come in, so you'll be able to pick on them instead. Classes will get slightly harder, and most people will start taking a language this year too. I recommend Japanese because unlike other languages, Japanese has like programs like the student exchange program where you'll be able to interact with Japanese students and also possibly get the chance to go to Japan yourself. And like I said before, unless you can't afford it at all, I highly recommend you go on the DC trip and 8th grade social because those are just like really fun events. And because this is the year where you're transitioning from middle school to high school, naturally a lot of your classmates will be leaving, so I highly recommend you get a yearbook this year too. Freshman year. Welcome to high school. So this was actually the year I experienced my first heartbreak. But I like completely deserved it because I was being a clingy ass biatch. Anyways, this was also where high school band begins, and it's because it's only a first period and I could barely get up for school in the morning. My school starts at like 8 and I get up at like 7:50. So there was no way I'm gonna get to first period, so I dropped band this year. This was also the first year that my school introduced a new class, which was the Intro to Digital Media class. Unfortunately for me, almost all of my work was like complete garbage. I had no idea what I was doing with Photoshop or the camera. For game design, my group and I also made this game that involved like robbing a house and a clown villain. And it was like super fire. It was gonna be great, but we ended up spending too much time on the animations and storyline that our game ended up with only 2 levels that didn't even work. And we also got a chance to visit the video game company Blizzard's headquarters, which was really cool. Not everything I made was trash in this class. My friend Beansang and I made some really fire chip commercials. They were fire. And I also joined track. Even though I got shin splints and had to sit in an ice bucket for the majority of practices, I missed half the scheduled meets. I still had fun, and it really convinced me to join cross country the following year, which would become one of the best decisions I ever made. Moral: if you decide to get in a relationship, don't be a clingy biatch. And because you're in high school now, you'll have a lot more opportunities open up to you. You'll be able to select some new classes, maybe get a first period. You could join some new clubs, join a sport. So instead of pushing everything off until later when you get more busy, I highly recommend you get these new experiences right now. Join some clubs, and maybe you could apply for a leadership position later on. And even if you're unsure about it, I highly recommend you do a sport, because if you don't like it, you could just quit the next year. But if you push off doing a sport until senior year and you end up liking it, you'll regret not joining earlier. Also, this is more general advice than specifically for 9th graders, but if your class has like a cool activity, for example, my class had the beach activity this year, just please go. Even though people are running for class, Cabby always say, oh, I'll have more activities. It's not always as easy. There's paperwork involved and people need to approve of things. It takes a long time. There's a process. So if there is a cool activity, make sure you go and don't regret not going, because later on, the only activities might just be those generic movies. Sophomore year. This is a long video. If you're still here, this isn't a thing anymore for the world history class because of Nat Turner. But back in my day, we played this totalitarian simulation game in world history class. And what would happen is every day you would need to come to school wearing this number ID. Every day you would need to salute adults, sing the pledge in class. You wouldn't even be able to laugh in history class. And if you did any of those things or even talked trash about like the authorities in this game, you would be snitched on, you would lose points, which would contribute to your grade earlier on. I tried to play it nice at the beginning and not tell on anyone, but after getting snitched on a few times, I decided to snitch back. I reported like 50 people in a day. This was actually the year that our school also got in trouble for a specific activity. As per status quo classes continue to get harder, but because it's not junior or senior year yet, I decided to like do a lot of stuff I haven't done yet. I went to winter formal, joined cross country, which is by far the best decision I've ever made in high school. I highly recommend you do the same thing. I threw a Christmas party. We saw God's sperm. I volunteered for Key Club's Operation Christmas, where we collected donations to help a family in need. I did talent show. I ran my school's Ironman competition with a partner. My class had an ice skating activity where the majority were just grabbing onto the wall and barely walking around. And because I was also applying to yearbook for the next year for my junior year, I would only be able to do one sport, which I chose to be cross country my junior year, so this will also be the last season I would do track. So I ran a bunch of events I never did before, including the 4x4, where our group's goal was to not get last place, and we got second to last, so that's a dub. Moral: obviously junior year is arguably the hardest year, and because that's your next year, just like how I did a bunch of new stuff I never did before, I highly recommend everyone else does the same thing. And even though I didn't, a lot of people take their first AP this year. And another big decision is choosing between Chem Honors and Chem CP. In my opinion, unless you either really like chemistry or you want to do something that involves chemistry in the future as your career, I have no idea why you would choose Chem Honors. There's literally no point in choosing the harder class. I remember when I was in 10th grade, I would just be surrounded by people taking Chem Honors complaining about how hard the class is and all of their bad grades. Not once have I heard a single person talk about getting 100 on a test. But at the same time, if you do take honors, and you'll probably also make a lot of good memories from it too, and also bad ones. A lot of people will oftentimes make music videos for extra credit, and you'll be able to understand all the Chem terms that everyone uses, such as a chip. I don't even know what that is still. Also, if you're able to start your driver's ed process to get your driver's license, start that immediately, because my senior year literally everyone drives, so don't be left out and get started right away. Also, hopefully this is still a thing in the future, but if you're in a specific English class, you'll be able to participate in the Amazing Race. People will be separated into different groups and teams and design a game based around Les Mis, and each team will compete in everyone's games and compete for a good score. This was just a really fun activity, and my group also decided to binge watch movies over the summer and met up multiple times after the group project was over. And yeah, enjoy 10th grade because next year is junior year. Junior year. This was a pretty hard year. Since I didn't take any sophomore year, this was my first year taking APs. I took 3 of them. This was also my first year with a first period, and because, like I said before, I can't wake up at all, it was actual hell. There was an instance where I was late to class for a whole week because I overslept. There's also specific people that came to class late almost every day. Add on the SAT, yearbook, which I'm not discouraging you from joining. You definitely should join. It's a great experience. It's just that it gets really busy. Plus another heartbreak, which will probably be the worst one I'll ever experience in my life. And yeah, I was fucked. But on the bright side, I had fun at yearbook camp where we hung out and bonded as a staff together. I tried entering this Cheeto as the Eiffel Tower for this Cheeto shapes contest, but I got left on red. Me and the boys plaqued for the first time in cross country, which is easily one of the best moments in my life. I ran Ironman with a partner again and we got second place. My friends threw me a surprise birthday party where they gave me a Switch. I made my first vlog, and then moral. So what you just saw a picture of was this internship that my school offers to students that I did, and yeah, don't do it. It wasn't fun. Please don't sign up for the RedX internship. At this point, you'll be a lot busier with all the tests you have to study for, harder classes, probably more classes than usual, leadership positions. Just manage your time well. If you're having irrational thoughts, talk to a teacher or friend or something. Just get the support you need. And because many teachers besides a few select a-holes are aware that this is a really hard and stressful year, they'll be more than willing to help you out. Senior year. Senior year. We had senior sunrise, our last first day of school, my last cross-country season. If you're an underclassman and didn't get the message yet, go join cross country. Speaking of cross country, we went to Oregon for a varsity trip this year. This was my first one and that was really fun. If you haven't seen the vlogs for that, go check those out. And then we also had an outdoor movie activity that I regret not going to. And then we all know what happened. Moral. if you're an incoming senior, you don't have to like full on complete them, but it's a good idea to start looking into at least what colleges you want to apply to. Maybe even make a first draft. Certain majors like film require a supplemental, like which includes a portfolio and actual short film that you need to submit, so you want to be aware of those before it's like 2 weeks before the deadline. Make sure you write some drafts, revise them, ask people to peer review them. I didn't start most of my apps till like October, where most of my schools had November deadlines, and as a result, I got rejected from every single November school I applied to. Contrary to that, I got into almost every school I applied to that I had a January deadline, and that's not a coincidence. At that point, I had the experience I needed to know what made a good application good. So if you really want to get into a school that has a November deadline, I highly recommend you start earlier on. But besides that, obviously what happened wasn't fun. My advice would be just don't take things for granted and have fun while you can, because the future isn't a guarantee. So now for some general advice. If anyone's still watching this video, I'm like really surprised. Thank you so much. But if you go to this school, you'll be like in this bubble full of nerds, stereotypically. Schoolwork will be like prioritized. Your whole life will seem like it's geared towards college. Even though school is important and you should prioritize it, you shouldn't like let it control your life. If you like just spend your whole high school career focusing on school and trying to get into a college, if you end up not getting into that college, you're just gonna be really sad that you just wasted all those years not having fun and making good memories instead. And yeah, I just hope everyone is doing good and having fun, and thanks for watching my video.